Hello everyone. I hope you are doing well today. This is, I guess, the third video of my Cairn second edition world building. I guess it's become a series now. 3 is a series, right? But this is the final, should be the final one. We just have a few things left to do to wrap up this world building and we'll be completed with it. As you can tell, this is version 2.0 of the map that we made in our last session. I've made a few changes. I mostly just gave it a glow up. Is that what they call it? A glow up of the previous map. And just a few small changes. I wasn't happy with the way I did the water in the last map. I had some sticks coming in here and some things going in here. It didn't really look very river-like nor very interesting. So I redid it. This bluff area up here has turned out to be, it's an interesting area. I really like it. It's on, first of all, it's on a rise. The bluff's got this great water wheel here, so of course it makes sense. This is where the water is going to start. But when you look at I rolled 3 dungeons in this area, only 5 points of interest on this map. 3 of them were in this quadrant. And look at the name of these dungeons. We got an inverted manor. We got a petrified tower. We got a collapsed estate. This screams to me, this is settled lands, very settled, civilized lands, and kind of rich people lands, right? These are richer lands. A manor, that's a richer dungeon. An estate, that's full of rich people estate. So I thought I would raise the property value of this area since it's full of rich people and put a big old lake on here, so there would be lakeside properties. So these are fancy lakeside dungeons filled with all sorts of crazy monsters, I'm sure. But these are now in the rich part of town with being lakeside properties. I thought that made it more interesting. And then I drew a big waterfall. I get a picture of this mammoth waterfall falling down off the bluffs into the forest below. And we had to have a river kind of near our heart city. So I had another river going out this direction. This may be not a waterfall. This is maybe, whitewater rafting for those rich people, to do on here. Anyway, so that's my map. I changed the waterways a bit. I also shrunk the geyser section just a little bit. I wanted to have more of a direct connection from the heart to the forest. Before then, it was kind of the geysers and the bluffs were connected. So I shrunk the geysers down back so that way I have a safe path to the forest. I wanted access to all the realms. But otherwise, everything else remained the same. I just drew pretty little symbols for them. Little things here. I changed this, was a floating object. I decided to make it a floating skyship. A big galleon, 3-mast galleon floating in the sky. But this is not Final Fantasy VII or Eberron. They don't have skyships in this world, so ooh, mystery. And then the ancient Leviathan, I just go ahead and made an ancient dragon skeleton because, what's more cool than this corpse of this ancient dragon? Its bone wings rising over the forest canopy. Anyway, that's that. So just some small changes to the map. There's only really maybe 2 things we're going to do today. We need to do paths. So you have to, mark roads and paths from your heart city to the points of interest around the map. Not necessarily every one, but you got to have maps, roads going around or trails. This is not like a wilderness crawl. You're allowed to have roads and paths. And so it encourages you to do that. So the rules for that is kind of right in here. There we go. Right here. So we need to generate paths between our heart city and these points of interest. There's 3 types of paths basically. A standard path, which is just your normal path. There are hidden paths, which do not appear on maps. Their discovery requires some sort of cost. So we'll probably put in a hidden path somewhere. Then there's conditional paths that may be blocked or require specialized tools. such as boats, climbing gears, etc., to cross. Others might be impossible to navigate without a map or a guide. So they're a little bit, just conditional. So, they recommend that you do the pass on their own separate notebook rather than mess up the main map, because they are kind of a little convoluted and weird. So it doesn't have a very good example, really. I kind of looked, there's not a great example of a path in here. I had to kind of go down a little bit, down into the forest section to kind of pull this off. Let's see if I can find it here. Pretty sure I should have marked it on here before I did it. Let's see, I think I found it here in building a dungeon or building a forest crawl in here somewhere. I think I found a kind of a better kind of example. Not really a dungeon. Black, let's see here. Now, Cairn is a point crawl. It's not a hex crawl. So you kind of travel from point to point, and that's how they define the pass. So we really need to designate, the points. And a day is divided up into 3 watches. You have a morning watch. Oh, there we go. This is the one. They have an example of a forest crawl. This is the only one where I could find examples of pathways. You see the crossed lines, which are constricted paths. You see your dotted line here, which is their hidden paths. And then there's their roads, which are plain black lines. And then there are talks of whether things are a road, fairly common, easy road, but there are game trails. You can divide things up to smaller game trails and overcrowded paths. And so you gotta see how they label it as dry riverbed, hunter's tracks, hidden, old logging roads. So you could define things by definition as you want, but that's how they do a map of the trails. And so that's what we'll try to do for our land in its own map. Let's see here. Let's get some examples here. Oh, I better get back to the main thing here, because we do have some random tables as well that we can draw on. Let's see. There we go. So there are some random tables in here which they'd like you to roll on if you want, which kind of has a feature of the path and maybe even a condition of strange things that happen on the path. As I was saying, your days are divided into 3 watches. You got a morning shift, a afternoon shift, and a third shift is mostly your night where you sleep. So really you only travel usually 2 out of 3 watches. So you need to determine how many watches it takes to get from one place to another. Easy places, like our 2 top parts, that don't usually have any sort of modifier unless you want. The tough one, like going to the forest, will require an extra watch. And perilous, which is what we have for our geyser, frequently takes about 2 extra watches to get through. So that's part of our penalties. And additional things can acquire additional penalties as well. So that's how we create it. Anyway, let's roll it. That's really all we got really to do on this. There is a little bit of part which I'll talk about naming conventions, because there is a section here about naming things. We do need to name everything. We got to name our factions. We got to find names for these dungeons. Maybe names for the forest and the geysers, but I won't take up a lot of time on that, because that can be kind of time consuming and not exactly all that interesting, just naming things. So yes, anyway, let's generate some of these paths and see how they work. I just got some graph paper out. I'll probably draw these, when and if I journal this game, I will probably draw this path system in the journal. Maybe the backside of this map, I don't know, I'll probably journal it. So we start from the heart. Like I said, it doesn't have to be too exact here. Our little heart. I think we should definitely make a path probably up to the petrified tower. It's probably the closest. I think that should just be a normal. I'm going to make this a conditional road, believe it or not. So I'm going to put a conditional mark in here. I think that even though these are 2 easies, we don't want to make them tough. But I think because they're going to be climbing some cliffs over here by the Whitewater Rapids, where the rich people do their kayaking and canoeing, we'll have to have climbing gear to get up here. So that's going to have a condition here. I'm just going to mark on here climbing gear. And then this is the petrified tower. Honestly, these are going to be kind of renamed whenever I get around to making another name on them. PT, maybe heart. H, I don't know, double H. Okay. So, let's see. Oh, no, I wish I'd flagged that example again. I was kind of dumb getting rid of that thing. The whole point of that was for me to keep that that example in here within close reach so I could make sure I knew what I was doing. Okay, there it is again. I remember where it is here. Okay, so, now it doesn't put the watches in here, does it really? This is just kind of an example of it here. But you do kind of want to put how many watches it takes to get there. So, about halfway to the map, not quite, here to halfway. Because of the climbing cliffs here, even though this is going to be an easy road, I'm still going to say it's going to take 3 watches to get up that tower. But I won't add an extra challenge for the climbing gear. But they'll have to have climbing gear just to get up here, or I'll have to have climbing gear to get up here. But it's still going to take 3 watches to get up here. But that might mean you might have to camp because you only travel for 2. So it's going to be like 2 watches, camp, maybe at the base of the bluffs, and then a 3rd watch. And then the following day, your 1st watch. See how that kind of works. That 3rd watch is always a night which you typically are not going to travel unless you want to suffer fatigue and penalties like that. The inverted manor, half the map down, top to middle. I'm going to say maybe it's also going to be an easy road. I'm thinking up here, you know, wealthy people like their 4-lane roads, you know, for their electric vehicles and their GPS. So I'm going to say it's an easy trail right up through here. I got to quit making rich people joke. Not cool, bro. Okay, so I'm going to come down here. I'm going to come down here to the inverted manor. I'm going to say that is just, there's going to be 2 watches, I think, to get their manor. 2 watches. But no penalty otherwise. And then to get over the collapsed estate, that's pretty far away. That's from the middle to the edge of the screen. I guess that 2, but there's a big river here to cross. I'm going to be easy and say that there's going to be a way to cross it, like a bridge or something. That seems kind of cruel since, I mean, there may be some yachts floating around this lake, but I don't know how they're going to, see, look at me doing, I'm still making rich people joke. Anyway, so let's go over here to the collapsed estate, way over here. Estate. Still, this is all easy area, easy road. I'm going to say 3 watches over here. And the Great Water Wheel is going to be kind of here in the middle. Kind of here in the middle. They can stop and check that out. You know, Cairn doesn't really say that these landmarks, he just calls them landmarks. I don't know if he considers them these point of interests or not. Hard to say, but I would say, why not explore these things? There may be a point of interest in there that you want to check out. Curiosity, at least. Okay, so that covers the bluffs. I could do... No, I don't think so. I'm going to say the water cuts this off. Otherwise, I say I could do a loop. But I don't think so. I could maybe do a hidden trail to the ancient dragon skeleton. Nah, I don't think so. I think that's that. Okay, there we go. 3 watches, and 2 watches. Now, I am going to say there's going to be a hidden path to the skyship. I don't know if you guys remember or not, but this skyship we rolled some kind of an unusual weather phenomena here where when it rains around this area, and this is a world that rains, or a region rains pretty often, the water collected here from the rain glows glows brightly like a lamp, and can be harvested. Now it does fade with time, but I think this is going to be an important resource for our city. I think this is a resource to be collected. So I'm going to say there's actually, halfway there's a road, and it gets perilous right through here. So kind of bottom, middle, top, middle. I'm going to say, normally I say maybe 3 watches. And because this is perilous, we would add +2 watches to it, but I'm going to add +1 because it's half normal road, half dangerous road. I think we'll split it. But I am going to do a waypoint to this sky ship, even though it's just a more like a landmark rather than a dungeon or point of interest. But I think it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be an important spot just because of the weather conditions. It's going to be a harvestable resource there. So I'm going to say there's going to be a point of interest thing to it. Ship. And I'm going to say, what did I say, 4 watches? Okay. Now here's where things get tricky. We have an overgrown burial ground here. I'm going to think this may be a good spot for a hidden trail. I'm going to say, maybe I'll save this for last, because this is a perilous dungeon. This is going to be like the nastiest, worst, most dangerous spot on our map. So I got to make it, portray it that way. Let's instead do it to the forest. Let's go here. Forest adds a +1 for being tough. It's quite a ways away. But it's not through perilous lands, through tough lands, through the forest. I'm gonna give that maybe, let's take a look here. So this is I'm gonna draw it here. Let's do it here this way. I forgot I gotta make sure I have enough room for the overgrown thing. So this is gonna be the construct, rusted construct. Forest is tough terrain. That's +1 watch. About half this route's probably the forest. So 3, maybe 3 here. I think that's going to be a 4. I'm going to give that a 4 as well. It's the same thing as here, really, but this is perilous. This is tough. So I'm going to say 4 watches to the rusted construct. Yeah. But I want something to that overgrown burial ground. I want a hidden path there. But where do I want that hidden path to be from? BG. Do I want to go from the heart? I don't know. I don't really want it to come from the sky ship. That makes sense. I don't want it to come from the rest of the conference. I think maybe we'll do a dotted line here. We'll curve it around. And this will be a hidden path to the burial ground. And then we'll say this is maybe 1, 2, 3. I'm going to say 4 watches to this burial ground as well. This is in-game content over here. I know it seems like a long ways, but you're traveling through perilous geysers. I'm going to say through most of it. Maybe somewhere like a direct path, or maybe like right through here. Something like that. But it's still going to have to go through here. See how it still makes the loop. It's not technically off of this. It's really here down to here is a hidden path. So we're going to call it 4 watches there. 4 watches here. Okay. That's it. We don't really have anything with the ancient skeleton. This is over here in the way. There is our map of paths. Oh, we do have still more stuff to do on the paths. I forgot. Probably some things to mention. And it doesn't mention this in the book very well, so I'm not sure how Mr. Gall handles this, but Like I said, forests are special in Cairn. They're their own thing. That's why the cover of the books both basically are both two forests on here. Forests are a big deal. They have their own forest crawl. So technically when you go in a forest, it can be its own map like this. Forest, you generate a forest crawl with its own point of interest, its own trail. It's basically like this map kind of design, except just for the forest. So I don't know if that happens when you enter a forest or if it's something just special you do if you feel like generating it for the forest. Can I just do a trail just straight from the heart to here without going through a forest crawl? I guess I'm saying yes, probably, but it's not very clear. I don't know when you do a forest crawl. If that's like a special banner, a dungeon that you just create, or does that immediately happen when you enter a forest? Because like the example I gave you, this is an example forest. See how it has the trails in the forest here? So I'm not sure if that happens the minute, it might say in here too. I never really thought to look. But it might say in here that when you enter a forest, you immediately enter a forest crawl. Anyway, I won't worry about it as far as what we're doing right now. Who knows when and if I'll ever enter a forest, and who knows when I'll ever make it down here. We'll deal with it when that situation arises. I'll have to look at the book and see. But I did have that question. Okay, so the other thing we need to do, there is a D20 table that you can roll on the trails for oddities. And see where it says forest crawls right here. Forest crawls is a simple method for exploring a large forested area, typically made up of branching trails through scattered connecting interests. While forest crawl has the same properties as a traditional dungeon delve, it swaps stone walls for dense forest. Instead of rooms, point of interest are defined as clearings. So it's kind of considered a dungeon exploration if you do it. So I'm going to say it's not necessary unless you really want to, I guess. Anyway, you can create it. I guess you don't have to have it. Okay, anyway, back to our main goal here. Okay. Let's get this going here. Okay, so we've got our path generated. One of the other things we can do is there's a random table for path features, which we can roll on here too to kind of give the path a little bit more of its flavor to it, right? See kind of what its feature is for it. So it does say roll on the path's feature table for each path. Whether or not I'll do it for each path, I don't know. But let's roll it. It's fun to have a little bit of random in it, so let's check it out. Let's see. Let us do... let's go to the ship. Let's see. It's a D20 table with two different things happening on it. So let's do it here. Oh, I got too many maps now. Okay. D20. 4. Cattle prints, okay. 7. Erratic weather. Well, that already kind of fits. Cattle prints, I bet up here near the farmlands. Cattle prints. I guess that's a distinctive feature. And what I said what the weather was? Erratic weather. We already know this. We already determined that this was the weather. Isn't that funny how the Oracle always knows? How does the Oracle always know? It's weird. It always knows. Okay, let's do something down to this hidden trail here. It sounds dangerous. Let's see if we roll something dangerous. 15. Overgrown. Well, look at that. It isn't overgrown. How did it know? How does the Oracle always know these things? And 18, a steep climb. Okay. Overgrown. Well, we already know this. And it's a steep climb. So maybe there's a bit of a rise up here to the top of this burial ground when we start getting to it. All right, let's roll for the rusted construct. 20. Ubiquitous footprints. Okay. Oop. Oh, that dice is a goner. Okay, let's do this one. 16. Poisonous fruit. Okay. It would make a little sense to have poisonous fruit in the forest. And ubiquitous footprints. Well, we know there are predators roaming around this area, so that also makes sense. That just gives us more room for exploration, seeding things. After all, this is an exploration. There's going to maybe side trails, side paths. They're going to treat it like an exploration process. So it's not as cut and dry. Okay. I think I'm not going to roll one here. I think this is this is the safest road we have here going from the heath up to the path. I'm just going to let that be. I don't think I want to roll anything about that. But let's go something from here to the collapsed estate. Oh, come on, man. 10. Frequent pilgrims. Okay. 18. Another steep climb. Well, that kind of makes sense around here. Maybe the bluffs continue to still kind of rise up through here. And I can imagine there may be pilgrims that are kind of going to the Great Water Wheel. You know, I don't know if they're going to go over the collapsed estates, but, you know, so this was once a civilized land. There are roads leading up here. That's the fun thing about Cairn. You write paths for a reason. They're not meant to be just like blank forest where nobody lives. This may be the only civilization. But that doesn't mean there aren't other NPCs cruising around gathering resources down here. Maybe apparently making pilgrimage to the Great Water Wheel. Let's see, frequent pilgrims. And it's still a climb, right? Steep climb again, right? Yeah, steep climb. Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and roll something for the manor. Why not? We're here. 10. Well, more frequent pilgrims. No, I already rolled that. Let's roll something different. 15. Overgrown. Nah, I already rolled overgrown. Let's roll something different. 14. Newly made. I think what I'm going to say is that travelers have cleared this path in their frequent pilgrimages. Part of their mission, they've been clearing this path out, making it even easier to travel. 1. Bandit ambushes. Oh boy. You know what bandits love? Pilgrims with a lot of money. Especially rich pilgrims, maybe from this richer area. Rich pilgrims are, oh, that's a bandit haven right there. They love it. Pilgrims don't usually come armed and carrying lots of cash. Perfect. Okay, so there we go. We have created our path system through here. You can add more watches for trails. So like I might say this is a trail hidden. So there's ways to add, you can add more things, more watches, subtract more watches as you see fit. And like I said, it is kind of a travel. So plenty of rooms for diversions, oracles, getting off track and wandering around the wilderness. You can really do it all you want in Cairn, but this gives you a good idea of your travel time to the various dungeons that we have scattered around and opportunities for havoc to have happen. Okay, that's really all we had to do as far as that's concerned. The only other thing I wanted to show is how we name things. Like I said, we're going to want to name our 4 factions, you know, that we've created for ourselves in here. And we're going to want to name these locations on the map. I could just call it Overgrown Burial Ground, but wouldn't it be cooler to call it something like, I don't know, we'll roll and see. So we can take a look at some of those things, but I just want to give you a brief show because there are procedures for it, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I just want to show you how to do it as an example. So the naming convention is a little further in. It's actually in the warden section back here. Here we go. So there is a section for naming procedures. So it has like a D6 you generate for like the adjective, point of interest, name of the point of interest, and then they have tables in here. D100 tables, pretty large ones for adjectives and nouns to describe the nature of the thing. So for example, like if I wanted to do a name for this inverted manner, I'd roll a D6, 5. It would be the noun adjective manner. So let's take a look and see what we come up with. The D100, 46, the gold. Oh, was it just noun? Or was it adjective noun? The gold manner? Is that what it is? I already forgot. Yeah, I already forgot what I rolled here. The gold something. Oh, okay, adjective. Yeah, okay. That didn't take very long. 81. The gold savage manner. Okay. Well, I'll write that down on here. Maybe I'll write it in my notebook. The gold savage manner. I'll write it on my manner over here, just so I have an example. The gold savage manner. Maybe this is the maybe this manor, the gold savage manor. Maybe this is the base of operation for these bandits. The bandit ambushes out here. Maybe they're living out of this manor, and this is where they have all their stolen illicit goods. Anyway, see how you can kind of come and put connections together. Anyway, I'm not going to roll for all of those things. I just wanted to give you an example that you should do that for all. Do that for all your points of interest. And spots on the map. Makes it more fun. And they have the same thing here for factions. You roll on this D6 to see what kind of faction it is, what kind of group they're called as part of it. I'll do an example here. Let's take a look here. I'll pull out my notebook here for a second. I'm still not really sold on this whiteboard notebook. I think it's might be a little too precious for my own good. I think it might be a little too much. I like my whiteboard index cards that I use, but this I'm not so sure. Okay, so let's try it here. First off, we'll roll a D6. 3. Group of the group, or group of the noun. Okay, so this is your group. Roll a D20. 6. Collective. Okay. Collective of the, and then you can roll a noun. Okay. Collective of the 85. Collective of the 85. Spark. Collective of the spark. Okay. Collective of the spark. So there's an example on how to name a faction. And then you can do the same thing with the realm. You can ability to name your realm. Same sort of process. Baronies, you see there are all sorts of things in here, but we're far from the realm. I guess maybe I can do it, but I don't care. But we may need it. You know, we have a couple of our factions, like the cultists and the military organization, that are somehow or another fealty is part of their advantage. So it might help to have the realm, so we know what do they have fealty to. And then, as I said, forests are important. We can name our forest in here. And this forest is going to be special. The forest can really be defined, not only by adjectives, which I wish they have 100 of them in here. You can really like make it a very cool sort of forest in here. And that's the naming convention. So, but I won't spend a lot of time on that. I just want to show you an example. So we have officially built our world here of Cairn. It's pretty well done. I will generate all the names myself in my spare time, and I'll probably do a version 3 of this map with the names of the things. And I'll name the forest and the heath and the geysers, and do a version 3 of this map. And then after that, that's it. I'll name my factions. I'll maybe kind of write them down in a notebook. From here, you would normally, I guess, go on to character creation, make your character, and then make your background for your character, build them, and then make some NPCs so your character has some, relatives, friends, frenemies, the whole shebang to flesh your character out, more specifically for your character and what's going to be going on in his life. And of course, we could make the all the factions have a point of contact. So we'll make that contact up. We could draw a slight map of the town. We'll have to name the town. It's not going to be Hart. We'll have to name the town. And, probably that's where your character will spend the majority of his time for a while anyway, until he feels the need to venture out. But that'd be the next step, building the character and building stories, from there. But I wanted to check out world creation. I think it's really fun. I really enjoyed this process. I like tossing the dice and where they landed, and what the dice turned out determined what they were. Having 4 dungeons in a lair was crazy. I liked rolling for these different parts of the map, whether they're easy, tough, perilous. I like the landmark system. This is the map generation system that you could use for any system. It's totally agnostic. I think Mr. Gall did a great job in giving you the tools to generate your own realm to explore. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Thanks for joining me. I don't know what my next videos will be. Maybe I'll do some Tales of Argotha stuff. Maybe I'll actually dig in. We'll start playing some Cairn. I don't know. I'm still pondering it. I hope you all have a great day, a great week. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video.